scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Which side
What's up,
are you
motherfuckers?
on?
Hi, you sick
Which
pieces of
side
shit.
It's your boys.
It's your girl.
Taylor and Phoebe, hosts of Remarks.
And that's a style of intro that we've never ever done before.
Absolutely not. The way that I just
my
like had to
God.
like side eye look at you like and like take in a gasp of air for you to know exactly
Sing
what I was.
the thingy.
Yeah, sing.
Oh my God.
Yes. So as we were saying before we redid the intro,
Yeah.
we did see Little Nas X
Yes.
last week, Friday.
Yep. On
Yeah.
Friday, last Friday. That was a cultural shift happened. I feel like the trajectory of my life has forever changed.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
We all looked really cute.
Oh yeah, we were like fi as
We
fuck.
did. Yeah.
Pretty much that was it.
And it was
Also,
fantastic.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The pit crowd in Phoenix,
Okay.
Arizona,
Yeah,
was kind of weak. It
What
was
the fuck,
kind of
you
weak
guys?
as shit, actually.
They literally were like, they looked so bored.
They were like standing around, like I don't know, like they were like they had better places to be.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, this is fine.
This concert I paid like $200 to be at is like meh.
It's like mid, yeah. Which I mean, honestly, there are a lot of people who are like that. I guess
This
that are,
is
like,
true.
They'll pay like a fuck ton of money to go to Coachella and be like, it wasn't even that fun.
Stand around, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was like, okay, you guys,
Come
like
on.
I'm up here in the like kind of far away
Nosebleeds,
seats,
yeah.
and I'm like losing my mind. And so if y'all could show
Yeah.
a little more,
My pants are being shit. Like
yes,
my
there's
vomit.
pee running on my leg. I'm
Yeah.
shaking. I'm convulsing on the floor.
True, yeah. I know.
And you're all just kind of standing there like, okay.
Yeah, like-
this is like one of the greatest artists of our generation, but like, meh.
I know, like so much slay, but so much nay from the crowd.
Exactly. No, the slayometer was like literally
Maxed
broken.
out. Yeah, no, it's to the top. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. The outfits, the dancers,
It was
the
so good.
gayness of it.
Yeah, truly the queerness, the raw queer energy. Yeah.
Truly, and that I felt in Phoenix that night.
True. Yeah.
Yeah,
I felt gay god in that Chili's.
I did. Truly. Well, hi. We have yet another episode of Cult Month for you
Cult
little
Month.
fuckers. So, yeah,
True, and I think it's gonna be a good one.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel good about this.
I feel fucking phenomenal
Fuck yeah.
about it.
Good.
Actually. But you should take it away. 'cause
Okay,
you're up
I was
first.
gonna ask whose turn is it? All right. Well, as I've been saying this whole season of this series of Cult Month that we've been doing, I am focusing more on like Utah-based cults or cults that have some weird tie to Utah. And so one of Utah's ongoing cults that kind of lies more under the surface is impact training. Have you heard of this at all?
I've only heard of what you've told me about it.
Okay.
Because you have told me about it.
Okay, yes. So it's not as new and flashy as Teal Swan, and it's not as deeply rooted and scandalous as the FLDS cult. So Impact Trainings has been able to fly under the radar since 1985. You know, it's like they don't have any real huge scandals, like, as far as I could find. I didn't find any, like, sexual assault things. I didn't find any murders, although there is kind of something related to that we will get to at the end. A little spicy spice for you there.
Yeah.
You know, they're not like in robes shaving their heads. They're not doing crazy shit. It's like pretty innocuous as this sort of self-help thing.
It's like, yeah, there's not like abuse running rampant. It's just scammy.
Yeah, well, and it is definitely abusive, but it's so under the surface, I think. So based on their website, Impact Training seems like your typical self-help seminar-based scam. The homepage on their website says, take a quantum leap towards being a happier, more loving, and productive person. The impact trainings are unique in this world. Each training is targeted at a different aspect of life and is designed to empower the human spirit toward a free, unconditional, loving, and joyful life. We provide a safe and sharing environment for each student to discover and be their true selves. So it's like kind of your basic jargon, and it sounds it's like fucking okay. Like this is like this could be like a like those like alpha male seminar type things. Like it's kind of just like whatever.
It could it could even just like from that description, it could just be like a religious conference at like a fucking church.
Totally. Exactly. So, oh my goodness.
Pardon me.
You're pardoned. So this is pretty classic stuff. The website offers 3 sections of training, each with a few trainings underneath these sections. So the main ones, the typical ones that you're going to start with going into this are the core trainings. So the core trainings include Quest, Summit, Lift Off, and Awaken to Life Mastery. So I'm going to kind of go through some of these things and what it says on the website, and then later on in as I talk about this, I will break down based on somebody's actual investigation what actually goes on during these trainings, and it is fucked up. So right, the Quest training, hold on, I want to make sure that I get the wording right here. The Quest core training, it costs $725.
Shit.
It says, open the door, look into the mirror, and discover yourself. Do your relationships work, or are you just tolerating them? Is there complete honesty in your communication with those you love? Blah, blah, blah. Fucking, classic, that kind of shit. It's a 3-day weekend. You go home at the end of the day each day, but you are going there every single weekend or every day of this weekend, and you are there for basically 9 a.m. to like midnight.
Oh geez. I mean, it is like basically the like whole day for like a week.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you're like sleeping somewhere else.
Yeah, but
you're spending all your time
it's
there.
Yeah. So Thursday is relationship skills and accountability. You talk about your relationship skills. And this one kind of sounds businessy. The difference between controlling and manipulating. Empowering will be discussed in a very direct and honest way. Learn how accountability is critical to your success in business and in life. And then you have personal strength and communications. Participants will gain a clear understanding of their strength as well as the strength of people around them. Blah, blah, blah. Friday, you're doing blocks to leadership and taking action. And Saturday, you are doing personal power, loyalty, and dedication. So it sounds a bit businessy, honestly. It kind of sounds like just like some kind of business seminar.
Yeah.
But it builds as you're looking through these things, even as just like a lay person looking through these things, the language gets more and more kind of scary as you go on.
More like spiritual and wooey.
Yes.
Like as you go.
Yeah. So the next step after Quest is the Summit training. This is another 3-day event. This time this includes a little fluffier, less business sounding language, and the cost has been raised by $470 for a total of $1,195.
Jesus. Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like they want to like present like normal things first, and then like later on, once you've like put a lot of money into it, then it's like it seems like that's when they start to get like whip out the crazy stuff. I wonder why they do that.
Yeah, it's almost like that's how every single cult is designed.
It's almost like if you were a frog. And you were in a pot of really hot water.
First it started, you were in a pot of like pretty nice water, and then
like lukewarm
2 hours later you're boiled to death.
2 hours later you're actually dead.
So in the Summit trainings, it says that you have something unique to offer this world. In Summit, you're experiencing a level of magnificence you've yet to experience. Summit training is a place for you to take a stand as to what you are committed to create in your world. Blah, blah, blah. In Summit, you will get a clearer picture to what that is. Possessing this clarity can assist you in eliminating self-doubt and gaining more confidence when pondering which decision to make. So it's a little less like business seminar soundy, and a little more like this is gonna save your life. So again, this is an all day, everyday thing. Thursday, the training is called Live According to Who You Are. This is your opportunity to listen without judgment so you can see the purpose of life's experiences. You will come face to face with the results you've created in your life, know exactly what to choose to give and receive. Whatever. Friday, you are touching the spirit within. You have the chance to touch, move, and inspire as you build sincere relationships that expand your honesty. Saturday, you're stepping up in life. This is the time to honor your life's path, right? So it's a little more of that like positive self-helpy language.
Yeah.
After this, we have...
It's like if I wanted someone to like tell me the meaning of life and like how to unlock my, secret happiness in my spirit, like I'd just go to like some really high person to like drum circle on a Sunday afternoon.
Exactly.
Which is a big like hippie thing here in the Salt Lake.
Yeah.
That happens at a park. But like the fact that like they're like, we can do it, like we'll do all this for, fucking $1,500.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
Yeah, like I think I can get this same kind of talk from like some guy tripping on acid at like drum circle, probably. Yeah. So after this, the next step is lift off. This is 5 weekends of trainings, and it ends with like a ropes obstacle course, which is just kind of silly. And it also costs $1,195. Again, I know this is like a lot of jargon, but I'll just quickly read through.
But it's nice. Is it like a workout thing too, then?
I mean, not necessarily. I think it's kind of like, I think the ropes training is more of like a learn to like work together and like trust your blah, blah, blah. Yeah, like it's kind of one of those
Put
like
your new skills
it's
to
a
the
challenge.
test.
It's like a challenging thing that like is now iterated in like a physical form type of thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, weekend 1, masterful communication. Weekend 2, highest perspective in relationships. Weekend 3, be the change. Weekend 4, personal power, which thanks guys, this one's at home. It's a virtual training, so that's at least I don't have to fucking drive out to Bluffdale for this one. And then weekend 5 is the ropes weekend, and it says, in this training, through a series of various structured events, you will learn to stretch your body, mind, and spirit. This empowers you to trust yourself as you use the tools of the training, creating a sense of courage and confidence. You'll develop strong motivation and a greater enthusiasm as you live your training in your life.
I really like the idea that they like put you in a room for like, what the fuck is that? Like 12 hours, more than 12 hours. Yeah, like 12 hours
something
a
like
day
that, yeah.
or something. And then like the last training, they're like, all right, now do this obstacle course with the training we gave you.
Exactly.
They're like, you just told me to be happy the whole week. I don't know what to do.
Now you have to climb a rope, bitch.
Now figure the fuck out. Like, so funny.
The final step of these core trainings is the Awaken to Life Mastery. This is a 4-weekend training, and it is taught by one of the founders of Impact Training, Sally Berger. And this training costs $3,400.
Sally Berger.
Uh-huh. Berger.
Something. Burger. I like to think it's burger.
Yeah, just a big fat burger.
It's fucking juicy ass fucking ham, dude. And
in this one, they give me the actual time. So first weekend, it's Friday, 9 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. No, sorry, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. And then it goes on like that for 4 weekends. So it's Friday and Saturday, and you're there literally all day.
Damn.
This one they don't really give much information about, as if like any of the other shit was really information. Yeah. But it says the next powerful step on your journey. The training will provide powerful experiences, practical insights, and loving support designed to empower you to live your vision on a deeper, stronger, and more spirit-filled level. Learn to balance yourself, trust your natural knowing, read the energies around you, and connect to universal truth. Blah, blah, fucking blah. Okay. Classic shit.
A whole lot of fucking nothing is what all those descriptions were. It was a whole lot of, we're going to say spiritual sounding words at you for 12 hours, and then at the end of it, you're going to be so happy you're done that you'll feel great.
Exactly. So the founders of Impact Training is a married couple, Hans Berger and Sally Berger. They created this Impact Training in 1985, and it's kind of a branch off of another self-help cult thing that was, I believe, in California, and I'm so dumb I forgot to write down the name, but it's something like Life Spring or something. Of course, kind of like that. And according to Hans' obituary, he apparently died this year in May. So, honestly, good fucking riddance. Yeah. Goodbye, you creep.
Get the fuck out of here.
This is what his obituary says about his personal life. And this literally is all that I could find about, like, them personally. as like human beings.
Damn. Yeah, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, and even this doesn't really have a lot to say about like who he is. So it says Hans was born September 6th, 1941 in German. Zwanitz, East Germany, into the family of Bruno and Joanna Vogelberger. Hans escaped to West Germany with his family in 1954, similar to the Von Trapp family in the famous movie The Sound of Music, which is just really funny that they added that in there.
Yeah.
Hans' father quietly told everybody to get into the car, and the Berger family rode in silence through the night to the West German border. They did not look back. Shortly after his escape, when Hans was 17 years old, he immigrated to America alone with a one-way ticket and just $60 in his pocket, not knowing a word of English. He eventually made it to Utah, where he attended the U of U and met Sally Breinholt Berger, the love of his life and eternal partner. They were married on April 28th, 1972. Hans and Sally were inseparable during their marriage, which allowed them to create their own business together in 1985. And literally the rest of his obituary is just talking about impact trainings. The impact trainings. Together, Hans and Sally created a vision for their company to empower the human spirit towards free, unconditionally loving, and harmonious living. Impact trainings allowed Hans to share with others his story and the gift of freedom he so deeply treasured. As Hans and Sally engaged in their purpose and passion together, they created a ripple effect with over 100,000 graduates living the vision of impact trainings worldwide.
See, yeah, I feel like they're basically charging you like multiple thousands of dollars for like a chicken noodle soup for the soul book.
Right.
Like,
no, and it totally
that's how
is.
it feels.
Like, I think that, reading through like people's reviews of this and going on Reddit and like just trying to dig up like all the shit that I could about this, there's some people who did have like a fairly positive experience, or at least that's what they think.
Say it, yeah.
They believe. Which I don't know, whatever. Your life is your life, and if that's what happened, cool. But as I will get into what actually goes on during these, I think that maybe you're not actually okay, but whatever. But yeah, I think some people who don't get super like deeply into it have like a pretty all right experience, and maybe they go on to live their life okay. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know, dude. Ugh. It's a lot of like attack therapy type. Yeah. So
the old classic.
Yeah, I know.
Old reliable.
Old reliable in the cult world. So what's more interesting than this obituary is the comments that have been left on this virtual obituary. And I think this just kind of gives a peep into like who these people are and the types of like grip that they have on the people that go through the program.
Yeah.
It says, and I'm not going to say the people's names because they are victims. Quote, I was Googling Hans looking for an impact date or something and saw his obituary instead. So much goes through my heart. Sadness for loss, happiness for what he created and his legacy here. I got to meet him only one time due to his health, and that was at last year's LMT Christmas party. I cried and told him how impact and him made my life amazing again, as when I was first born. Impact has changed my life, and I feel the most love and peace when I am with my impact family. A song goes through my mind by John Denver, and I heard it first through Impact. And I don't know this John Denver, but whatever. Your heart to mine, my heart to yours. Talk about opening windows, talk about opening doors. My heart to yours, your heart to mine. Love is a light that shines from heart to heart. Beautiful. And then she says, from my heart to yours, Espavo, 4444. And then gives her name. Okay. Intriguing little tidbit at the end.
Okay.
Which things that are very telling here is I feel the most love and peace when I am with my impact family, and it's like, I wonder why. That's how these things tend to work, is that you only feel like peaceful, or this manufactured type of what you think peaceful is, when you are doing these seminars and shit.
Well, and I think too, like, you have to, like, because with these big things, like, you're not working, you're not like really living your life when you're doing these like gnarly weekend 12-hour fucking events.
Exactly.
Do you feel peace because you're there with your like impact family, or do you feel peace because you're like taking a little vacation from your life?
Right.
Like, you're like, wow, I can like sit down and rest or whatever. Yeah. Like, well, like, I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know.
Next one, quote, "Dear Hans, thank you for all you have done in this world. It has been blessed by your presence and will continue to feel your positive vibration. You will live on in people's hearts you have touched and taught. You continue to reach an infinite group of humans all around the world. Heart 4444." And then they give their name.
44444.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more impassioned comments like this, talking about impact training, how Hans has been a light in their life, etc. A lot with these extreme emotions behind the comments, talking about how he's impacted the world, whatever. And there's a lot of like words and numbers that probably wouldn't mean much to anybody outside of the impact world. The 4444, which I'll kind of get to a little bit later, although it was really hard to even figure out what that really meant. Calling him Espavo, which I didn't ever figure out what that was. A lot of people will write LOT and then a number, and that's referring to like lift off training, whatever number of lift off training it was. Anyway, and so looking at these comments as like an outsider is like a very interesting look into how these people talk as part of the program, right?
I think so. I just looked it up just out of curiosity.
Yes.
And Espavo, at least from this website that pops up, says Espavo, literally translated, it means thank you for taking your power. We invite you to use this ancient greeting once again. So thank you for taking your power, I guess. I'm trying to figure out what it just like means, you know? This is espavo.org.
Espavo.org!
that I'm on currently. Here, I'll research this on a break and we'll get back to you.
Well, why don't we Espavo to some ads right now?
Thank you for taking this power, which is the power of capitalism. Woo-woo. Ads. All right, laddies, we are back.
We're back.
And doing a little bit of live reporting for you.
Yeah.
We were looking into fucking Espavo, and it seems to be like more fucking cult shit.
Yeah.
It's like spiritualist, like I don't even know like how to fucking describe it, but
like light worker stuff,
seminars. It says here that like new energy centers, activate new energy centers now forming in the new body.
Oh no.
And it's some guy fucking named Steve Rother and the group, which then parentheses, angelic entities from the family of Michael. So
perhaps coming to a cult month near you.
Seriously, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, so I don't know what that connection is, but that's very interesting because, you know, I had a lot to talk about, so I was like, I don't know, Espavo, great, moving on. But this is very interesting, so I'm definitely going to rabbit hole about that later tonight.
We'll defs come back to that one for sure.
For real. Okay, so I'm going to break down to you now what actually happens at these impact training events. This is from the Cult Education Institute, which is an institution that goes and investigates cults and like actually participates and like undercover in an undercover way, and speaks to members and everything like that to get information about what's actually going on. So this impact training was being investigated by them. And this study was written by Philip Cushman, PhD. They replaced the name from impact training with the name Vitality, I think to kind of cover their asses in some way or another. So I'm going to try to replace that as I'm reading this, but if I forget one, apologies, but I'm talking about impact. And I've kind of just gone through and I've taken some sections that were the most like, oh fuck to me. So I'll also try to give them a bit of context as I go through. So I'm going through the days. It goes through literally every single day and every single event, what happens during these events and how the subjects, as they call them, felt during these experiences. So as part of day one, event one, the like main person is talking about like the rules of impact and kind of what's going to be going on in this training as they begin. So it says, excuse me. It says, he then begins the laborious chore of explaining and getting participants to comply with impact training's ground rules. This is a crucial process since his unwavering goal is to achieve a total unquestioning compliance with the rules from each of the participants. If the participants are not willing to comply completely with the rules, they are not allowed to continue in the training. This process usually takes the rest of the night. The trainer is explaining the rules, and the participants can ask questions or make statements about the rules and ask to be granted exemptions from a specific rule. However, in order to do this, in order to voice a concern with a rule, they have to completely comply with the rules initially, which means they must not speak until recognized by the trainer, and then they have to stand up and speak through the microphone in front of the entire auditorium. So therefore, like, every single person is staring at you, thinking that you should have some special exemption from these rules, right? And whatever your special exemption is, you have to fucking tell everybody. When you as the participant has finished, like, asking whether or not you can get out of this rule, everybody has to applaud. And this is kind of how it goes on whenever there's, like, a large group sharing type of thing. Somebody has to be given permission to speak. You have to get up and speak in front of the entire group, and then the entire group has to clap. And pretty much nobody's given any exception to any of the rules.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, this is kind of a scientific thing. So the language in this says 3 of 3 behavior subjects, 100% of these people, meaning, like, they asked a bunch of people out of this group, and they call them behavior subjects. So basically 100% of people reported that some people were abused and humiliated during this procedure. When people would ask to be exempted from rules, the trainer would yell at them, call them names, attack their personality, and make fun of them. The trainer would say that question or needed exemption from the rules was irrelevant to him, the trainer, and this was an indication of their poor psychological functioning. And then he goes on to say that by attending the seminar itself at all, it's actually saying that, like, you're not good enough. He says, quote, "You're here because your life isn't working. Your life isn't working because you're scared shitless of committing, just like you're scared shitless right now of committing to the rules." So
yeah, I mean, that definitely seems a little manipulative how they have that. Like, they're like, you can be exempted, but, like, you gotta fucking, I don't know, you just have to jump through a bunch of hoops to do it.
Right. So that's day 1, and that's basically all that you're doing day 1 is having the rules explained to you, and having everybody who decides that whatever these rules are that are extremely strict, perhaps I shouldn't have to do that rule anyway, and then you get emotionally berated. So that's basically all of day 1. Cool. So day 2, event 3, 100% of people described a dyadic exercise referred to as the parent posture exercise. And this was really interesting to me because I feel like it kind of echoed a little bit of Teal Swan in a way. So participant A acts like his or her father or mother, and then they switch, and participant B acts. Participants are instructed to get in touch with their feelings and even exaggerate. They're encouraged to notice what they held back from their parents, how they stopped being quote-unquote real with them and with the world. Obviously, things are going to come up that are extremely emotional, extremely sensitive material. This is the first of a huge series of exercise dealing with the participants' parents and their oftentimes tumultuous relationships with their parents. They're extremely regressive, so the person acting as the child in this is literally acting like a child, and it brings you back to a childlike mentality. They encourage the participant to confuse the past with the present, to relive intense emotions and conflicts, and as the exercises progress, the regression becomes increasingly more infantilizing and falsely gratifying. Since the exercises become increasingly intense and graphic, you are literally in the most graphic of details describing the relationship that you have with your parents, any conflicts that you've ever had with your parents, and most likely the people attending seminars like this are probably have difficult relationships with their families in one way or another.
Probably.
And even if they don't, I'm sure that some small thing that caused some sort of issue with their family however long ago is going to come out and become a larger issue. Much like the Teal Swan thing, although it's maybe a little bit more real than like her actually implanting memories into you, but it's more just like expanding something that maybe is just a normal part of childhood.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I guess, the idea that, like, if you throw enough people into a room and get them talking about, like, their parents, like, there's going to be some fucking, like, trauma that's in there.
Exactly.
And then that's going to, like, feed into everybody else
who's, like, already
on a negative.
You start feeding off of each other. And again, at this point, you have been in a room for hours. Hours and hours. There's, like, they play, which I think it's listed in some of these later ones as I get into it, but they'll play specific songs at specific times that are extremely triggering. There was one with this parental thing where they started talking about, somebody started like talking about like their relationship with their father, and they started playing like some song about like a dad.
Oh shit.
Some like sad emotional song about a dad. So they're very like playing with people's emotions here.
Absolutely.
It goes on to say, as a result, subjects reported many great emotional sounds in the training room. Participants began crying out loud, moaning and screaming. At times, the din becomes overwhelming. One experienced subject reported becoming so upset that she vomited, and this is so common that the staff has bags provided for this.
Wow.
Because people get so emotional that they vomit.
Damn.
So frequently that they're like, here's your barf bag.
Have a bag. Yeah. No, that's a lot.
Moving on, day 2, event 5. So that's literally just the third event of this extremely long day. The lecture continues with dyad work in which participants remember a childhood scene in which they were made to do something they didn't want to do. They are instructed to make it into this is kind of whatever. They're instructed to make it into the formulaic expression, I have to do X, if I don't, I'll feel Y. So for instance, like as a child, you know, I have to go to school. If I don't, I'll feel stupid or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Subjects reported that the trainer really begins to push them at this point. 100% of subjects noticed at this point the room became very emotional because participants were confronting painful and angry feelings because they felt that they had done hateful things in order to be loved or accepted. So for instance, like if they had a sexually abusive relationship with a parent, I have to perform this act. If I don't, I'll feel like my father doesn't love me or whatever it is. The trainer argues that the feeling that is experienced when people play this game is called a grungie.
A what?
A grungie.
Oh.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Kind of a gross word. But yeah.
And mentioning that because it kind of comes up later as I'm going through more of these. And they call this a payoff. So it's basically saying that, like, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, right? It's a payoff of, like, it's okay for me to do this terrible act I may or may not have done in order to receive my parents caring for me or whatever it is. But then the trainer goes on to say that you never really were coerced into this. This was your choice that you did this. Everything is a choice. So whatever bad act you may have done or may have been done to you that you now believe is your fault, that's your choice that you made, right? Okay. Day 2, event 6.
Jesus.
Yes. 100% of subjects reported that a long exercise follows this lecture that turns the grungy concept into a way of discussing medical or emotional symptoms. And this is where already it's bad, but this is where you kind of start to see more how really terrible this is.
Culty it gets.
Yes. And this reminded me of Esther Hicks because they say that so they have to get into little groups and share their gungies, and they have to get in touch with a grungy that they feel is the worst of their lives. They have to then physically act it out. And then they move on to bring this into the idea of medicine and chronic pain and things like that. So they say that the only way to eliminate pain is to fully experience it. They're instructed to become aware of a physical or emotional symptom, identify where they hold it in their body and really feel it, intensify it, and exaggerate the feeling. The trainer then explains when participants figure out what the payoff is, they can more directly get what they want. They can then disappear the symptom because they don't need it anymore. The participants are instructed to call out their pain level. So basically, it's getting to say, like, your chronic illness, weight gain, depression, anxiety, you should be able to get rid of this on your own kind of thing. And if you can't, that's because you still are doing this payoff, or you're still carrying around this grungy or whatever it is. It's your fault that your life is fucked up.
Yeah, so it's like a physical, or I mean in some cases like a mental manifestation of like, again, this like thing that you did or was done to you, like a trauma of sorts that like
right
now it's like part of you and your whole but now that you know what you were doing it for, you can just do it without having to like do the grungy, which again I guess gets rid of the pain and or like whatever the ailment is.
Yeah, like you should be able to remove your own ailments sort of, even if they're physical illnesses. So the trainer usually asks for a show of hands for those who now believe they can create their own headaches, colds, and so forth. Also very Scientology-ish right here. He asks increasingly more extreme questions until finally he asks if they believe that they can cure their own cancer, and this is all done publicly in front of the entire group. So if you're not fucking raising your hand, everyone's gonna know. You look like an idiot. 100% of subjects reported that presentation concerns are very strong at this time, right? Of course. If you don't conform to the group norm by this point in the training, you better like just do it anyway. If you don't actually fully believe it at this point, you have to just
Well, and again, at this point, you're probably so fucking tired
exactly
and like over it. You're like, bro, I just want to leave.
Like I'm just gonna raise my hand because I'm really hungry and I really need to go to the bathroom at this point. And and that's another thing in all of this is that like participants are starved for hours, taken away from the bathroom for hours, kept in the same climate of the room for hours, whether that's extreme cold or extreme heat. Emotional songs are playing this entire time. Like it honestly reminds me a lot of some Jesus camp type shit that I've been to, at least in the environment of like this high emotional and the music and the not being able to leave kind of thing. Okay, this is one that is extremely dark. So,
yay.
Classic
content warning.
So this is day 2, event 7. The last series of exercises is victim accountable. Participants are instructed to tell a story in which they, quote unquote, did it to you. Meaning basically this is a story where you are the victim of something. So something was done to you by someone, right? You're the victim. So initially when they put you in these little groups, people are telling victim stories, and then each person is trying to kind of like one up each other. You're very encouraged to like tell a worse and worse and worse story of what you've been a victim of. And then you break up into smaller groups and you tell your story. Each partner must convince his or her partner that you were indeed victimized. And then you have to tell the story again as if you caused this to happen. You weren't really the victim, but you were the cause of this action.
I see.
So you created this happening to you. It is especially important to tell the partner what you were pretending not to know. Partners must continue telling the story and explaining until their partners are convinced that they really do believe that they are at cause rather than a victim here. And then afterwards you get together and you share in the large group. So what's happening here is that you're telling, initially you're telling a story, which I think there are many stories where people believe they're a victim of something and they're not actually, it's the victim mentality, victimhood thing. And that's a real thing. However, And maybe that's how it starts on the surface, but then you are being encouraged to tell worse and worse and worse story of some of the worst moments of your life and some of the worst things that have been done to you. And then you sit there and your partner has to convince you and is not allowed to like move on from this until they have you convinced that you're the reason that this happened and you knew something at the time that you chose not to act on, so you made this happen, right? So afterwards, you're all sharing in the large group. One behavior subject remembered a woman who learned from the exercise that she was not a rape victim. She got in touch with the fact that she had set up the whole thing, that she wanted it to turn out the way it did, and she was 8 years old at that time.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where I thought it was heading.
Yes.
They're going to say that the kids wanted to be raped.
Yeah, exactly.
Where all these always end up. Somehow or another. It's always
exactly.
People were asking for it.
And so this is what people are experiencing in these extremely long days, extremely long weekends, is basically an entire breakdown of their psyche and who they are as a person, putting them into the false position in basically every single aspect of their life, and then doing the building back up of like, but you can whatever. And then at the end, it ends with, which I'll get to it, but I'll just tell you anyway. At the end, it ends with selling you more impact training, right? Which, of course, saying like, remember that you got to come back and you got to keep trying, because if you quit now, you're never going to get better.
Lose all the progress you made.
Exactly. Yeah. So after this victim, what the fuck was it called? Victim accountable session. They get together. They're talking with the lead trainer in this large seminar type room, and 100% of subjects remember the trainer being very powerful and forceful about the viewpoint of, this is your fault type of thing. Yeah. He argued that when individuals come from being the victim, they feel one down. But why feel one down about something that's your own choice? The trainer proclaims, I set up everything, including his choice of his parents, his death, and so forth. There are no accidents. There are no miracles. So the ending, like, build the what's building you back up with this is saying that, like, well, you shouldn't feel badly about these things because you made the choice to make these things happen. So you don't need to be like sad and destroyed and depressed about whatever horrible fucking thing has happened to you, because they're your own choice. And so, whatever shitty relationship you have with your parents, or you died, or someone died, or you have fucking cancer, it's like, this was all manufactured by you yourself, no matter how good, no matter how bad. So
yeah,
day 3, event 2. So this is like a public embarrassment moment that they have. The trainer brings up people with obvious, the way this is worded says obvious physical problems, but things that people would be embarrassed about societally, I suppose. So people who are like plus size or have pimples or some sort of like birth defect or things like that. He asks the participants who do not claim to have a weight problem leading questions such as, how many of you eat as much as you want and don't get fat? Or who controls your metabolism? Obviously saying you're the one who's supposed to. The obvious conclusion is that participants with weight problems are causing the problem because of their beliefs about food and the secondary gain, i.e. grungies, that they get from it. He asks, what happened that you started gaining weight? Or things like that. One of the subjects says that he remembered that the trainer said that people who have poor eyesight didn't want to see something that happened in their family, and that people who were fat were trying to hide their sexuality. And then this participant goes on to say that, oh my God, he was totally right, because after my mother died, our sister started wearing glasses not long after.
That's, what is the fucking like term? Like causality doesn't equal...
Right.
Wait, no, fucking correlation doesn't equal causality, or something like that. Yeah, it's
yes.
Like, yeah, I'm sure she did, but like I I don't have anything that I didn't want to see. I started wearing glasses when I was in second grade. Like, what the fuck?
No, something horrible happened to you, Taylor, and you didn't want to see it because you're weak.
Because you're fucking weak.
Oh, God. Right. And so it's like they're having this, like, confirmation bias, maybe not really, but of like, oh, bad thing happened, then physical symptom came from that thing, right? So after all of this, then there's a large group share. A lot of people have to talk about like some of their deepest, darkest struggles, and then talk about like what the physical manifestation of that deep, dark struggle is.
Yeah.
And then the trainer, the repeated thing throughout this entire exercise that the trainer says is, your body is a living sculpture of your beliefs. Right? So this is giving shitty to people who are overweight and unhappy about it, people who are disabled, physically disabled, people who aren't like traditionally beautiful or whatever.
Like Western beauty standards and whatnot. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't have anything clever. Let's just take a quick break. I got just a couple more of these left for you, and then I will talk about the murder that came in conjunction with this cult.
Ooh, tantalizing.
Tantalizing indeed.
Yes, let's take a quick break. We love you.
Woo.
Ads. All right, we are back.
Hi.
And reloaded.
Ready to go.
Ready to shoot the shit.
That was me reloading.
As you cocking a gun.
Yeah. All right, let's just dive right back into it because we got a lot to talk about today. Okay, so day 3, event 6. This one is interesting. So they play something called the red and black game. Basically what happens is they're separated into red team, black team, and the staff tells them basically like you have to win. The whole point of this is winning. So then they're put into different teams, they're put into the teams, and then the teams are elected captains, and they have to figure out how to win the game. Basically, and it's like they don't even really say what happens with the game, but they just people become extremely like riled up about needing to win this game, and afterwards, like, they basically talk about, like, how these people would do anything to win this game. Not necessarily anything in, like, a real sense, but, like, the point was they tell you that the point is winning, and people are like, great, let's go.
Let's fucking win, yeah.
And so the follow-up to this is that they are told, like, you're the problems with the world. You're the reason why the world has problems is because, you know, you can't imagine winning without killing the other side kind of thing. Basically, Whoa. It's like once the point of the game is winning, these people like immediately are just like, how do we destroy the other side of this, right? Anyway, and so what follows after this is just them basically saying that like I was saying, they're told that you're the reason of like what's wrong with the world. And then they are told to go home and come back with a homework assignment of like what they're competing with and aiming to like what red and black game are they doing in their own lives. And so like, what is it that like they are out to like destroy that's not destroying them? Does that make sense? This whole shit's kind of crazy.
No, I kind of get it. Yeah, it's supposed to be like, okay, yeah. I mean, I can't like, I can't think of a good like analogy, but
yeah,
just like the idea of like, it's you against everybody else, or what are you trying? Like, what are you fighting so hard to get that like you're discounting other people?
So day 4, event 7. This is another one that I think really points out the attack therapy aspects of this cult. This is an experience in honesty. So a participant will go up to one person who they're the most attracted to, and then in front of the entire group, they have to talk about the qualities that they're most attracted to and why, and then the qualities that they're least attracted to and why. You have to look directly into the eyes of this person and tell this person exactly those things. Then the person receiving this message have to close their eyes and determine if they felt that the person was being honest, and the person giving the message has to do the same, right? And then if they weren't fully honest, you have to examine why weren't you honest, and then go forth with honesty.
Okay.
Then the flip side of this is they have to find a person that they're not attracted to and tell all of the reasons to this person why they're not attracted to them.
Wow.
So there's really no cushion on that one.
Yeah.
And then the sort of conclusion of this training is that the lecturer basically says that, like, this is a mirror. All the things that you're finding wrong in this person is what's actually wrong in you. There's nothing out here but you. It's all your stuff. Your experience of this person is just your experience because your stuff is coming out.
See, that's so strange because it's like, and I mean, obviously it's a cult and like shit doesn't make sense, but like, it's just like, can't people just not be into certain things, you know? Like, yeah. Like certain attributes.
Oh,
and
you
stuff.
have a beard, and I don't really like beards.
I don't really like beards. It's like, it's because you fucking hate your beard, and it's like, exactly. I don't have a beard. Like, it's like, what the fuck?
Okay. Day 4, event 9. This is where we get the reveal of what the 444 thing is. A lot of subjects refer to this as the hug line. This goes on for hours and hours and hours, and this is an extremely positive ending to kind of this entire experience, or supposedly positive ending. So the groups go into 2 different circles. So kind of inside circle and then outside circle. Each participant must look his or her partner in the eyes and signal with 1, 2, 3, or 4 fingers. 1 finger is no greeting, 2 fingers is eye contact only, 3 fingers a handshake, and 4 fingers a hug. Once you've kind of gone through this initially and given your first vote of whatever it is, just like your gut reaction of 1, don't touch me at all, 2, I want eye contact, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you have to talk about, were you being honest? What were you hiding from with giving these hand signals? Why are you afraid of being touched? Why are you afraid of emotionality with another person? And during this, they're playing the song Sometimes We Touch.
Oh.
At this point, people are extremely exhausted. You've been going the entire weekend. You've been going the entire day. You're emotionally and physically exhausted. And after this, after having a conversation about like rejection and why are you rejecting people and why are you afraid to have relationships with people, basically everybody completely converted and changed to doing the 4.
Yeah.
And it turned into just a giant hugging party that went on for hours and hours and hours. And this is where that 444 comes from.
I
is
see.
Like, oh, I'm given a 4 because I'm emotionally open to hugging people.
Yeah.
Fucking whatever. Emotionally open to this entire thing.
Like this intimacy and vulnerability now or whatever. Yeah.
After a couple times, everybody chose just a hug. No more 1s, 2s, or 3s, just 4s. It was a fantastic experience. As it goes on, we increasingly let go. I wanted it to go on forever. It was a wonderful feeling to not be judgmental or inhibited. It was simply unconditional, unqualified affection. I was filled with love. I was in an altered state. The feeling of community was overwhelming. So, then after all of this, they hit you with the final, hey, come back to Impact Training and try to get all your friends to come to Impact Training. So as my final conclusion of all of this, I've just given you a lot of information about what goes on during these things, but the basic gist of all of this is attack therapy sessions where they are lifting you up, breaking you down, and then slightly lifting you back up again. You are revealing some of your innermost, like, traumatizing secrets to these people, and if you are not giving a story that is traumatizing enough, you are being forced to either find another one that is more traumatizing or make something up. You're being told that everything in your life, the reason why your life is not working out is because of your personal fault. You're being told that any of your like physical illnesses or disabilities or physical things you dislike about yourself are your fault and things that you have manifested yourself, right? So to finish this off, I'm going to just read you a little bit about this murder that happened in conjunction with this cult, and that's kind of what the lawyers have come to say about this. Mm-hmm. So there were 2 men who killed 5 people, and they were participants in the impact training. You may have heard of them. Thunder. There was a roommate that they had that they believed that was like speaking through God, or God was speaking through him, and they all went to these impact trainings together. Moral of the story is, hold on, I'm so sorry, I gotta find the direct quotes that I want here.
So so like they were going to the impact training, and then like one of them was saying God was speaking through them. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm so sorry. Here it is. Okay. And this is also from that culteducation.com. Neil Fisher of Salt Lake City, a former Impact Trainings employee who founded Introspect, which Glenn Helzer, this person who was God, attended before it shut down, said Impact Trainings helped him work through his own problems. The intent was to get an emotional release so that they could feel free to express themselves. After Impact Trainings, he had a less heavy confrontation. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Miss A, the UC student who testified at Justin Helzer's trial, one of the murderers, worked at a training session by a company called Personal Power that Helzer attended in 1997. She said the trainings by nature are confrontational and agreed with an attorney's characterization of them as a systematic use of humiliation. She said victims of child abuse might be told, "You seduced your father to rape you." Officials with Personal Power did not return calls for comment, which is just another branch of this. Among the exercises trainees participated in was a lifeboat in which people decided who in the room should be rescued from a sinking ship. You are instructed to stand in front of the person and say their name, which is their alternate name at this time, which is usually like Daddy's Doormat or Daddy's Little Reject or Mama's Play Toy or Dirty Slut, just something that speaks to who they are as a person. David Sullivan, a defense investigator for Justin Helzer, testified that he attended an impact trainings course incognito in Utah in 2001. He said the themes of the lessons included, there are no victims, there is no right and wrong. He described a feedback arc in which 4 participants would shout insults at a person who stood up and talked about their life. After intense sessions, he said, trainees were told to lie down under dim lights and listen to music and a soothing voice, which he suggested was a method of asserting control, manipulating thoughts. By the end of the training, I was the only person that hadn't been programmed, and it was obvious. Everyone else was kind of in this love bomb state. By the end, everyone hugs everyone everywhere. Mm-hmm. So these murders happened. They discovered that these people who committed these murders went to these impact trainings, and basically like what you're learning in these impact trainings is that nobody's a victim of anything. There is no right and wrong. To take control of your own life, to get rid of your grungies, things like that. Anyway, and so it's not like these people were told by the cult to go and murder people, but it definitely had a lot to do with like altering their state of mind and persuading them easily when somebody else came in and said, hey, we should do these things because of these things that we learned here. They're not free from blame. Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, and the idea of like breaking down like concepts of morality and like what's right and wrong is going to inherently then be something that like attributes to like, well, there's no right and wrong, so I can go and murder somebody or whatever,
and especially too when you're like being given the go ahead to emotionally berate people,
exactly,
and like encouraged to make it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one because it's like, again, I feel like they went the smart route where they didn't like do anything absolutely like unhinged,
right?
Like they just like kind of low key under the radar are kind of fucking people up, you know?
Exactly. Like it's like
they're not on like a huge power trip.
It's
they're
like
just getting
beginnings of Synanon.
Exactly.
Which like it definitely is extraordinarily detrimental to people's lives. I don't know that it's going to get much bigger or like much more Synanon-y than it is now, because it has been going on since 85. But you know, there's obviously like iterations and branches that have already started to happen that are doing worse things. So
we'll see what happens with
yeah
it.
And all that being said, like, this is very bad, and if your family member tells you that they're involved in impact training, get them help immediately, because it's going to destroy them as a person and drain their bank account in seconds.
I was gonna say, because that's like the big thing, is it's very scammy, and also I mean it just doesn't seem like it's very beneficial for you, like mentally or emotionally.
Exactly.
So pretty bad stuff, but as they all are, I suppose.
This is true.
So we'll jump into my story, I suppose, here.
Yes.
But I am going to give a big, huge, ginormous content warning for this one. It's real bad. For all of, sexual assault, murder, rape, fucking kids dying, and all involving children. Like, just a big old trigger warning here. So have you ever heard of the Anthill Kids?
I've heard the name, but I don't know that much about it. I just have heard the name and know that it's bad.
It's very bad. And again, it's not quite like, if we're like talking numbers wise, like it's definitely not nearly as bad as like the Jonestown Massacre. But like, the thing with, like, I guess this is that like a good portion of the people that were involved got out of it. So like we know some really like graphic details, more so than are even known about like what happened with fucking Jim Jones.
Sure.
So, Rock Thoreau was born on May 16th, 1947 in Quebec, Canada. So he's French Canadian. So it's like ROCTHERIAULT. So Rock Thoreau. He was considered a very smart child when he was in school. Everybody, like kind of general consensus that he was pretty like intelligent, but he did drop out in the 7th grade to go and teach himself the Old Testament.
Okay.
And some accounts say that he dropped out because he, again, like wanted to pursue Jesus. Some say that he like didn't like authority very much. I think it's probably a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
It was around that time, though, again, in like the 7th grade, when he started to get into like learning about like religion and I guess like religious type symbolism and everything. As with most cult leaders, he believed the end was nigh, and he kind of like mixed or kind of created this blend of like Catholicism and Seventh-day Adventism, which again, Seventh-day Adventism and Pentecostalism are always like the ones that I feel like the cults branch off of.
I
don't know what it is about those two. I think it's because Seventh-day Adventists, I think, are kind of like doomsday.
I was gonna say,
yeah, like in and of themselves. So, he did support healthy lifestyles and would not allow himself or his followers to smoke, which was interesting because I feel like smoking is the name of the game for the cults.
I was gonna say, sometimes that's like the only thing you get.
It's the only thing you can do. In the mid-1970s, he convinced people to join his religious movement, kind of started to approach people in bars and churches. He'd go around and basically be like, hey, like, strike up conversation with random people and then kind of like build friendships and then bring people into like his religious movement. The cult officially started in 1977 in Santa Marie, Quebec. And I think they started just, again, like kind of as like a little religious movement, but they did want to go and start a compound or a commune. He was wanting everybody who was part of his cult to live in true equality and like harmony, free of sin. Except he was the one that was, of course, more equal than everybody else.
Right, no,
which is
of course.
Usually how it goes. of course, while you were in the cult, you could not have any family contact or contact with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because it says here that like he was, or the church was against, like the Seventh-day Adventists were against his church's values on freedom, which like I just think is ironic because you're like, you can't talk to this church because they're against how free you are right now. So that's what he would be saying. He did claim that the end of the world would take place February of 1978. So, they all needed to hold out as they do,
of course,
and be the last people alive. They ended up moving their compound to Saint, I don't know how you would say that, Saint Georges, which again is also in Quebec. Mm-hmm. So while they were there, he made the commune, or the people build the commune, build like a little town type place, village.
Okay.
While he kind of just like kicked back and vibed.
Yeah.
And while he was kicking back and vibing, he made a remark that they all looked like ants working in an anthill, which is where the name, he then called the cult the Anthill Kids.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And while they, pretty much from the get-go with Rock, he was having them work pretty consistently and to the point where they were like all exhausted and easier to manipulate. Right, so again, like while they're sitting there building this town, he's feeding them all of these religious teachings, kind of going through everything. In February of 1978, World No End, big spoiler.
No shit.
Crazy stuff. But don't worry, folks. The reason why is because God's time and our time is different.
Oh.
And I bet you didn't think about that, right? Yeah.
But why did God not tell him the
actual time?
The different, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked. He says that it was because there was he got confused with like the Gregorian and the Roman calendar.
Bro.
So he actually did pull out and say that he was confused by the calendars that were presented to him.
Wow.
Of course, as a cult leader, he needed to expand his cult, as they do. Mm-hmm. So he decided the best way to do that was he was going to marry and impregnate all the women that were part of the cult.
Yeah.
So he did have 20 kids with 9 women.
Jesus.
That were all members of his cult. So that's pretty cool and good.
Yeah, that tends to happen a lot.
Unfortunately, it is a very common thing. So Samuel Gilger, and this is kind of the beginning of when things get kind of rough. So Samuel Gilger was a 2-year-old child who was having trouble urinating. So something was going on, wasn't able to urinate. Rock Thoreau proceeded to take a scalpel and cut open the child's genitalia. And again, big trigger warning to everybody. It's going to start getting rough. The 2-year-old, being a 2-year-old, would not stop crying. And as punishment, Samuel ordered Guy Vier to punish Samuel. And by all accounts, Guy Vier does seem to, it was reported to have some kind of mental disability. Guy Vier ended up killing the child, the 2-year-old child, Samuel.
Jesus.
Guy and Rock buried the child's body after first attempting to burn it. And as a punishment for Guy for murdering the child, Rock castrated him.
Jesus Christ.
So again, as you can kind of see, it gets real gnarly real quick.
Yeah, when it's like, okay, so you put this guy in charge of this thing and then you're mad when...
then you're upset.
Something bad happened? Like...
Yeah. The castration would lead to Guy passing away as well. He'd never recovered from that. So at this point, Samuel's
you're
dead.
Not a doctor.
Yeah, Guy is dead. Yeah, he's not a doctor, but he would do a lot of like surgeries, saying that he was like a miracle worker and things like that. So he ended up doing like weird procedures and stuff. Like it was very fucking like nightmare shit.
Yeah.
The before Guy passed away, because obviously he was alive after everything, but he ended up dying. Before he passed away, he told the other cult members to tell the police he was killed by being trampled by a horse. So he even again post castration was like, once he kind of knew like, ah, shit, I'm gonna die, like he told everybody to say that like he was trampled,
like held out to protect. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so when they would interact with the police, they told the police that story. Police were like, sure, that's, sounds about right, I guess. Which, police are dumb, but at this point, too, I don't know what the situation was.
Right.
At one point, a psychiatrist, because Rock was like really, I mean, most cult leaders are very charismatic, but he was like reported to be really likable, At one point, a psychiatrist says that Rock was safe and able to house children in his care.
Oh, no.
So an actual psychiatrist was like, yeah, no, he's chill. No, it's absolutely fine.
Right. So he was like extremely, extremely good at what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of like convincing people that he's fucking like totally good dude.
Totally good dude. And keep that in mind too, because that actually comes back. The psychiatrist there. So while the police tried to find or were trying to find a charge for Rock, because I guess they did have some suspicion that like some fuck shit was going on. Him and some of the followers were actually put in jail for just shy of a year. The followers that were not in jail set up a house right outside of the jail to come and speak with Rock every day.
Oh, jeez.
So they actually moved. Built a whole ass house like right nearby. So by the 1980s, the cult had 40 members to it, and I believe that's including the children as well.
Okay.
1984, they ended up relocating to Burnt River, and this was again after he got out of jail. This was when he really started to proclaim that he was a healer and began to do different kinds of surgeries. And, anytime there was some kind of ailment that was happening, but with one of the members, he would like take them in and try to perform a surgery,
do whatever
thing.
Miracle medical shit that he believed he could do.
What kind of terrible shit he was about to do.
Yeah.
All of the members were forced to wear matching tunics to show unity.
Oh, good.
Which again is always a good sign.
Yep.
To strip people away from their individuality. And they all began to sell local goods like syrups, fish, different things like that to the surrounding communities, sold under the name the Anthill Kids. Rock, I'm sure, was always drinking pretty heavy, but he began drinking a lot, I suppose, and kind of increased his like totalitarian grip on everybody.
Right. Which again, is very common theme is like as shit starts spinning out of control, they just start like doing more drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, and then just get even more like intense and abusive.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like there's their response to it is to like hold on even harder.
Yes.
Instead of be like, ah, shit, things are getting bad.
Right.
And again, nothing too crazy has happened, but yeah, the police definitely kind of know about these guys at this point because it is in the 1980s. I feel like people, we've come out of like Jonestown and all that, so people are like, this is kind of iffy. Right?
They're a little more sussed by shit like this.
Exactly. So he, of course, began restricting who could have sex, and even who could speak to each other in his cult without his permission. Yeah. Which, is always something that I feel like they do.
Yep.
And especially when they also are like sleeping with a lot of the members, I feel like they get like weird and possessive and like want to control everybody.
Oh, very much. Yeah.
It's strange. He would have these gladiator tournaments.
Oh, no.
Where he would make the members fight until he said to be done fighting.
Oh.
So, he's really starting to go off the deep end here. I was going to, let me see, I can find a picture of him really quick. Because this guy, he looks like a cult leader.
Oh, good.
What you would expect a cult leader to look like.
It's like when you see a picture of Charles Manson and you're like, oh, yup.
You're like, yeah, that really tracks. Honestly, it kind of gives Charles Manson slightly. Here's a picture of him. He's in the middle. You want to describe that to the audience?
Yep. Yeah, okay. So bald, but super, super, super long dark hair, very huge long dark beard, and really scary dark beady little eyes. Yeah, and he's a white guy.
Yeah, he's very white.
No
I guess he's
there.
French Canadian, so
that's true. Yeah, he's scary.
It's kind of a scary looking guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty whack. But again, apparently very, very charismatic. So members, at some point, especially after doing all this work and, kind of being in a constant, state of exhaustion, as most of the time happens, members kind of realize, oh, fuck, I want to, not be here.
Yeah.
So members decided that they wanted to leave. And, as they started to want to leave, Rock began to increase the amount of physical punishment that was taking place. Again, kind of always happens. And especially if you then said you wanted to leave, you would be getting extreme, extreme abuse happen to you. It was reported that beatings would take place with a belt, a hammer, and the blunt side of an axe, or just a few of the things. I'm sure there were more, but that was a few of them. It was reported that if a member wants to leave, the standard procedure would be they would tie them to the ceiling. So I assume I assume hanging downwards, being tied to the ceiling. Pluck all the hairs on their body, and that Rock would then defecate on them. Is again what was reported to happen. Yeah, it's fucking gross, dude.
And it's I guess at this point you are needing people to stay in so they don't go and snitch on the horrible shit that's going on in there, but that is just so much work.
Yeah,
and so the level of intensity, that's pretty bad. That's so much to do.
He's definitely also just lost his fucking marbles.
Clearly,
at this
yeah,
point.
100%.
He's fucking insane.
Yeah, not a person anymore.
But there's there's certain things where you can be this is why cult leaders do this. You know, you can kind of see the logic, but
it's
in this case, I feel like he's just lost his mind and he's just really trying to make people suffer as much as possible. You know, and I guess maybe it's a power thing. I have no idea, but
probably.
It's very gross, nonetheless. There was one member who, he had one member prove that they were loyal to the cult by breaking his own legs with a sledgehammer. Yeah. Again, I told you this was going to be a rough one because there's a lot of details.
Oh, my God.
He'd make them sit on stoves to prove that they were loyal, shoot each other in the shoulders with guns.
Yeah, so this guy is just clearly a narcissistic psychopath.
Yeah.
Just
next level. And again,
it's, I think a lot of cult leaders definitely have narcissistic personality disorder, but it doesn't even Jonestown, which was horrible. Do not get me wrong. I am not saying it wasn't bad, but it's it's just the physical level of torture here that goes beyond I don't know, the mental torture that I think most cults tend to sway to. This is this is just torture camp.
Yeah, you're just having people torture each other so that you can watch it because you're being
because you are a sadistic person. Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, shoot each other in the shoulders. He'd have people have to cut each other's toes off. Again, this was to prove loyalty. You would have to prove your loyalty by doing this to another cult member. You know?
And then it's how many of these people are just dying?
I mean,
because that has to lead to quite a bit of death, I would assume.
Yeah, there was a lot of cases. So, and it goes without saying as well, there was rampant sexual abuse that was going on. And again, I think it was mainly from Rock, obviously, like the cult leader.
That would make sense.
Because he was kind of, it seems, at least from like everything that I've read and like what I've heard about it, it seems that the rest of the cult was very much at this point like living in fear, you know?
Yeah,
so
well, yeah.
It doesn't seem like there was too much else going on with like other people. It was really just him, and I think he had a few people that were kind of his like, you know, his inner group that were
totally. Like, yeah, I think maybe
things.
The only time that something like that would have happened among members is like if he like physically forced, you know, them in like one of these punishment or loyalty sessions.
Again, very well could have happened.
Yeah. But I do feel like he definitely was, you know, the one doing it for like a power structure thing, and probably the person doling out the most like sexual abuse.
Yeah, very much the main cause was Rock. So if the kids misbehaved at all, it was reported that they would be tied to a tree, and the other children were made to throw rocks at them. So it wasn't just the adults that were having to, again, physically abuse other people.
Yeah. Which is also going to just fuck you up as a human being, like in terms of like what's okay in reality, right? Because, and I mean, it's the same thing with like these emotional manipulation ones. It's like you are literally being trained that like the way to prove you are the best is beat the living shit out of another person.
Exactly. And so obviously, like kind of throughout this whole affair, Rock's giving all these teachings. He's basically saying, you know, like a lot of kind of typical Christian-y type stuff of like, you know, you're not good enough. Like you have to do all these things to like atone for your sins.
Right.
In 1987, there was a woman who was pregnant, wasn't pregnant, but I guess probably started thinking about this when she was pregnant, but her baby was born, and though she felt her, like it was clarified in the thing that like she felt that she was you know, deserving of the abuse that was happening to her because you know, it was how she atoned for her sins.
Right.
She did not want her child to grow up, you know, and suffer the same kind of abuse.
Yeah.
So, and again, this part's very terrible.
Yeah.
So she ended up leaving her 2-month-old child out in a blizzard to freeze to death.
Oh my gosh.
To spare it from having to grow up with Rock.
Right. Which, I mean,
yeah.
How can you blame her?
Yeah, it's rough. Someone did end up coming across the body of the 2-year-old child, and the police went and investigated. I don't know too much. It didn't have too much info about like Canadian law, but Rock had registered the Ant Hill Kids as an official religion, which extremely restricted how much the police could investigate the cult itself.
Yeah.
However, they did get CPS, or whatever the Canadian version of CPS would be, involved because there was the child that was found, or the body of the child that was found. So they were able to get an investigation going on in 1987, and they did end up removing all of the children from the commune, which was, you know, a big win there.
Yeah.
That left Rock, 2 men, and 8 women as all that was left at that time in 1987.
So killed most of them.
So most of them died, and there was a lot of kids that were taken away.
Yeah.
And at this point, when the kids got taken away, it seems to have escalated Rock even further.
Right.
And this is where stuff gets like it's already been nightmares levels, but this is where things are like absolutely like horror movie horrific.
Yeah.
There's one story where he castrated a follower by wrapping a rubber band around his testicles. He would burn people's genitalia with soldering irons. He seemed to have like a thing for that kind of pain and punishment for people.
Again, just like very sadistic serial killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Psychopath level.
A serial killer with the charm of like a cult leader. At least charm when he was starting the cult. Again, I don't know at this point how charming he is, but he, claimed that all punishment was God's will, kind of as I was talking about before. September of 1988, so there was a woman named Solange Bollard, I think is how you say her name. She had an upset stomach, and she approached Rock saying that her stomach was in pain. Rock said that he could help, so he took her to, I believe it was his like cabin area, put her on the kitchen table, punched her in the stomach, put a tube up her lower intestine, gave her an enema using oil and molasses.
Jesus Christ.
Cut open her abdomen, pulled out a piece of her intestine, ripped off, pulled out, I guess, part of her intestine, ripped off a piece of it, and then put it back in and stitched her back up. All while, of course, not wearing any kind of gloves. This was done completely bare hand.
No anesthesia.
I would be very surprised if he had even washed his hands before doing this.
Yeah. So again, it's like, this is just... It's like, I think that most serial killers that are on this level tend to be kind of loners and freaks and like...
Exactly.
Already were sort of outcasts of society before this, but it's like this guy just got the perfect cocktail to make him extremely successful at being a horribly prolific serial killer, which in terms of he was not a loner and was extremely charismatic and just was very able to convince people and kind of just gave himself like that, shooting fish in a barrel kind of thing, where it's like he didn't even have to try hard at all to become a serial killer. Really, it's like he's honestly more of a serial killer than he is a cult leader, except for like the part where he had a whole cult, right?
Except for the part where he had a cult.
But it's just it's like most of what you're doing is just... Maybe at the beginning, he had this part of like spewing whatever bullshit he had to spew, but then it's, I mean, like you were saying, it's like he just freaked out and just started brutally killing and torturing people as horrible as he could.
And like, and it's interesting too, because like, I don't know, there must have been times where he obviously wasn't like this, because I feel like you can't just like be doing this every day, day in and day out, and like still expect... Well, first off, all your fucking followers would be dead.
Right.
And, like, still expect people to, like, be okay with that. So I'm sure there were times where he must have been, like, at least somewhat normal-ish again.
Totally. And nurturing and charismatic and all of these things, that enough that it convinces these people to stay for something other than just out of fear. Because, like, while I think that has a lot to do with it, like... To have a functional cult, you can't just be leading with fear.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what happened, but if you thought that was it, it gets so much worse. So of course Solange, this woman, she died the next day. She survived the night, which is incredible.
Sorry
but she
for her.
Did die the next day. Rock said that he would resurrect her. And the way that he was going to do this was him and the other men that were still there, which again, there was only, I think, 2 that were left, maybe 3. It depends. Everything, there's a lot of in and outs of people, but him and the other men that were there committed acts of necrophilia to raise her from the dead. They basically began like ripping her body apart, and he would continue, or at least for the rest of the time he was in charge of this cult. He wore one of her ribs as a necklace.
Oh my god.
And they buried her next to the compound, not resurrected.
Yeah,
obviously.
Funny how that didn't work.
Gabrielle Lavelle, was another woman here, having experienced her own abuse at the hands of Rock. She at one point had a toothache, and Rock pulled 8 of her teeth out, and had a hypodermic needle broke off in her back then left inside. I'm sorry. So after all of this and what happened to Solange, because she was, of course, there. I mean, again, there wasn't very many people left at this point.
Right.
She decided to get the fuck out of there. July 1989, Gabriella attempted to escape, but was caught by Rock, who then proceeded to, I guess, according to the story, he took a knife and stabbed it through her hand into a wall, and then proceeded to amputate her arm with a chainsaw.
Good Lord, dude.
But
it's like a fucking Saw movie.
Yeah, it's absolutely, again, it's like horror movie levels of horrific. Like, it's crazy. But August 16th, 1989, so I assume after she was able to function, at least somewhat function again after getting her arm cut off. She did make it a successful escape attempt.
Wow.
So she was able to get out. She went to the hospital and actually lied to the hospital to kind of show how in fear, I guess they all of them were. She lied to the hospital staff and said that her arm was broken in multiple places, and Rock helped her by amputating it.
Wow.
Rock was arrested for 3 counts of aggravated assault initially, and 1 count of unlawful bodily harm. He pled guilty on all of these and received 12 years. After he left, obviously, not being there, some of the members began to come forward with more stories, and they found the body of Solange Bullard. A second-degree murder charge was added. This gave him, of course, life in jail with possibility of parole in the year 2000. Now, the thing that I wanted to bring back, sorry, I'm going old school and just have paper notes.
No, it's very retro, very vintage of you.
Very vintage of me, huh? The thing that I wanted to bring back here, after the full story broke of all of the horrific things going on, this same psychiatrist sided with Rock, saying that he was generally good and not responsible for all of the crimes.
Oh.
And again, I don't think that he spoke with Rock, post that happening, but he was so charismatic that I feel like the psychiatrist couldn't believe that he was
exactly. It's like a Ted Bundy situation,
exactly,
where the judge was like, you're a good man, but you gotta go to jail. Sorry, bud, I'll miss you.
Exactly.
And I think that speaks to the level of how he was able to be brutally torturing people in front of all the other members, and they still stuck around.
They were still
which again, it's like a partial fear and a partial this person has you so convinced of that they have your best interests in mind.
Exactly. While in jail, again, kind of another callback to Ted Bundy here, he fathered 4 more children with cult women who came to visit him.
Fucking God.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in the video that I was watching, the person, Wendigoon on YouTube has a video about all this as well, so check that out. He was saying if there was any doubt or in your mind, if you were wondering if Rock believed what he was teaching, he tried to sell, when he was in prison, he tried to sell his drawings and poems on a auction site called murderauction.com. So I think he, I don't think that he had any kind of conviction or believed in any of what
there's some self-awareness there.
It seems like he knew and was trying, he wanted the power, because then he's trying to get money in prison,
exactly, off of true crime enthusiast
exactly
type. So it's literally you're
you just want,
you're admitting to everything. You're openly saying yes, I did this, and I do not feel bad.
I do not feel
at all.
February 26, 2011, 63-year-old Rock was killed in prison by a man named Matthew McDonald, who was his cellmate at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's said that he got tired of Rock bragging about all of the murders he committed and the cult that he led.
So there you go again. I mean, it's just...
Exactly. He stabbed him to death with a shiv, and he said this, after killing Rock, he went up to... let me find it. Sorry. He went up to one of the guards in the guard station, handed them the weapon, and proclaimed, "That piece of shit is down on the range. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up." Which, like, honestly, good on you.
Yeah.
Like, he got another life sentence added to his sentence.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But he was already serving a life sentence. And I'm kind of like, you're the only hero of this story.
Yeah, just, like, speaks to what a piece of shit that guy was.
Him, and I feel like Gabriella as well. And I mean,
Very
Solange
much.
didn't deserve any of that, but Gabriella was also the hero of the story.
Yes, yeah.
And then to kind of like go through it, kind of like what we were talking about with impact training, how it's like a lot of people would see it as like not that crazy, you know, like compared to everything else. I found this article. It was on a website called Zeph, ZEPH 456. I don't know, just some fucking.
Okay.
Just the headline caught my eye, and I had to like bring it up. I guess it says, it was like the Anthill Kids, the cult that was not that bad, or it was like the cult that could have been worse, or something like that.
How?
And I'm like, in what way? Like, and it's because when you compare it to like the death count of Jonestown or, you know, Heaven's Gate or like all these cults, it's like a lot like less people died.
Right.
But I still don't think it was good.
No.
I still think it was that bad.
Well, and I think too, when you compare like the level of brutality, which you shouldn't, but it's like, you know, Heaven's Gate and Jonestown, they suffered a whole lot before, but you know, it's like they drank some cyanide and died probably a minute later, if not quicker. Like, this guy was cutting people's arms off with chains. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like, okay, why are you trying to say that it's not that bad because like only 50 odd people died? Like, it's still, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's less than 1,000. Like, I don't know. That's, it was just mind blowing.
It was really weird to like do all the research for this and then like see that article and be like, what the fuck?
In what world?
Like reading about him literally like castrating people, and then he wasn't. It could have been worse, and it was like,
sure,
I guess
I'm sure, but thank God it wasn't.
Like, the Holocaust could have been worse too, but like, are you gonna write an article about that? Like,
right? Oh, Jesus, dude.
It's
just and I think that's the thing that I don't know, and not to get into like shitting on true crime enthusiasts, because I can be too as well, but like I don't know, I think this is something that makes these kind of things very difficult for people to like put into perspective, because there is all this like sensationalism around certain things, that it's like, oh, if the death count wasn't that high, like it wasn't that bad, or if they haven't, you know, if this cult hasn't resulted in anybody being killed, then it's not that big of a deal. If it's just like psychological torture that people are experiencing, kind of thing. And I don't know, it's like,
well, and that's why it's like important to like report on these things too, you know, like if we're gonna, like, why do we have to wait until a cult starts having horrific sexual abuse and like isn't, you know, all this insane shit for us to like care, you know? Like, I think impact training is like, there's not those things that are happening, but I still think it's very dangerous.
Extraordinarily dangerous, and should be like shut down immediately. Like, you know, Sally Berger hasn't convinced her followers to kill people yet, thank God, but like these people's lives are fully destroyed, and they are like emotionally they're not okay anymore.
When I was going to ask you, I thought about it and then forgot, but I assume with yours as well, like I assume that like if people in this in like one of the members' lives were to come up to them and say like were to say like, oh, you shouldn't, you know, like, why are you spending all this money on these things? They would be like, well, you just don't.
Oh yeah,
it, right?
absolutely, like, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's one of the like, you're one of the people that is, you know, making me the whole like I have to do X so I feel Y kind of thing, like. And you're taking me away from this thing that's like helping my life.
Self-awareness, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's that kind of shit where it like everybody who comes up to you and tries to have like a logical, reasonable conversation with you is just a hater and doesn't understand.
Exactly.
Like,
well, and it's like we need to be talking about and looking at the ones that are like not having massive death tolls, because like they are going to end up like the Anthill kids. Or other ones that have like
or a teal swan,
swan, right? Things like that. Like this is going to end up with people dying, and you know, maybe there has been people that have like died by suicide to impact trainings. We will never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
it's like, why are we stopping? Like, why do we only care after the fact? Like all this has happened when we have like multiple experts who like do this for a living, who like, study these things and can identify, hey, this is getting real culty open here, like this is not looking good, you know. Right. It's rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the horrific story of the Anthill kids.
That's just awful.
Oh yeah, absolutely terrible. Again, like I can't stress how like it is like a fucking horror movie. Like,
no, truly.
Yeah, it's bad. Like, honestly, I'm surprised there hasn't been a horror movie made off of this story.
Same, honestly, or like some sort of like documentary type situation. Maybe there is.
I'm sure there's some out there. Again, I would very much recommend the YouTuber Wendigoon. He did a really good video that I got a lot of my info as well as some articles about it. So that's how I like when I first heard of it, was through his video. So it's very, I mean, he's very good and informative. It's not quite documentary because it's more YouTuber style where he like tells you the story, you know, he puts up pictures and stuff, but it's really good. So yeah, check that out if you care to learn any more or hear it from another cool point of view.
Absolutely. I forgot I closed this before. I meant to find where I went to get most of my information. Oh, here it is. The Cult Education Institute is where I found like the bits that break down literally the day by day, event by event of this cult. So if you want to like read every single piece of that and get all of the information, it is there. Especially, again, also if you have a family member that is participating in this and you want to give them cold hard facts about, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
Cult Education Institute. And they have a lot of other great information about other ones as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I assume there's like resources as well to try to help.
Definitely.
Like,
yeah.
So,
yeah.
This stuff's scary. For sure.
It's very scary. Again, I had a family member, and it can really much fuck up your life. Really much.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and that's like, I mean, it's hard because I know there's whole ass fucking, I think there's a whole subreddit like that's dedicated to family members of people who have fallen into QAnon. Like,
yes, absolutely.
And so like that stuff, yeah, like it's not pretty.
No. Well, let's plug and call it a day.
We're tired,
and this has been very sad. So, you know,
cool month usually be kind of sad.
It usually is extremely depressing. So, you know, take care of yourselves, as we say at the end of these episodes. Usually,
always.
Anyway, follow us on Instagram at. I almost gave my. Wow. It has been a difficult episode. At Remarks Podcast, and you can follow our TikTok under the same moniker. Taylor, what up?
At Twitter or twitter.com @remarkspod. Leave us a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts if you care to. I have music. It is under Taylor Lacey. You can go listen to it. And then a huge shout out to our patrons. We have Justin Vass.
We have Andrew Vass.
Emily Doran.
And Today Soltero. Y'all are the salt of the earth, and we love you. And of course, shout out to the wonderful, wonderful corporate leaders at Circle Pit Radio.
It's 9:30 right now. We've been podcasting since what, like 6:30?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long, sad episode. Anyway, yeah, please check out their other shows. They're fantastic people. We love y'all so much, and you guys are the best. And thanks for listening. And
okay, love you. Bye.